The feeling and vibe are much different today than around this time a year ago when South Carolina went to Death Valley, took down in-state rival Clemson 17-14 in an all-time classic game to not only win the Palmetto Bowl, but to keep their college football playoff hopes alive at that time at least. But today, much different vibe, as I said, as South Carolina finishes a 4-8 season after a 28-14 loss to the Tigers here at Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday afternoon, now going into night as we film this post-game recap. And look, I don't need to tell you guys, this season has not been a good one for the Gamecocks. Worst record in a single season under head coach Shane Beamer, now in his 5th year. That's 2 of the last 3 years that this team is not only not going to a bowl game, but will finish under 500. And it was much of the same as we've seen all year from this group, as the offense looked decent at times, had some good moments in the first half, some explosive plays, a 53-yard touchdown to Nick Harbor and a 74-yard touchdown catch and run by Vandrevius Jacobs. But this was a close game entering the second half, and South Carolina had an opportunity to get the ball back to start the second half and do something, but just never could, and could not capitalize in key situations. I think that's the story of the day. When you turn the ball over 4 times compared to Clemson with just 1 turnover, you don't do well on 3rd and 4th downs in this game, only convert twice in those situations, and you get shut out in the second half. That's going to lose you the football game, and that's exactly what happened here tonight. And I don't want to make this so much about what happened today, even though this is the post-game recap, but I think it is important to talk a bit more about what this season has been like as a whole, what the future looks like heading into next week here. We know that Beamer is going to be back for 2026. That was already confirmed by Jeremiah Donati to Jordan Kay from the state earlier this week. So we know that he's not going anywhere. But this means that he's going to have the chance to do what he says, and he vows that next season will be completely different. When he said it a few weeks ago that South Carolina will be watching the college football playoff show, whatever week it is, and they'll be right in the mix of things and looking to get back into the playoff hunt in 2026. And he expressed a lot of that same sentiment here tonight in his post-game press conference, talking about how he's 1 billion% sure and 1 million% confident that next season will be a lot different than this season. But a lot went wrong this year, and it's a busy offseason ahead. First and foremost, South Carolina's going to have to hire a new offensive coordinator as well as a offensive line coach. Now, they could go down the route of Mike Furry and Sean Elliott, but it seems like they're going to end up going down the route of, at least for the offensive coordinator, that is, probably looking outside. At least, you can imagine that would probably be the case. The offense was doing pretty well under Mike Furry in his 3 games, calling plays, over 400 yards of offense today. But again, this is now a similar situation to Texas A&M, where the offense got shut out in the second half. So just not consistent enough, even though there were some good results. And then beyond that, you got exit meetings coming up next week. You got national signings, the early signing period, which will be starting on Wednesday, December 3rd. That'll run through the 5th. And then you're figuring out, okay, who's coming back next year, who you're going to bring in. Transfer portal opens up on January 2nd, and that'll be open for 2 weeks. And you got guys that'll have to make NFL draft decisions. One guy in particular that, well, actually, I'll mention 3 guys. The main one being Lenore Sellers. Still at this time, no firm decision on what his future is going to look like. He kind of just sat there and kind of smiled and giggled about it for a second when the question was asked point blank if he will be at South Carolina next year. So it's to be determined on what that may look like for him. Jalen Kilgore, Nick Harbor are also kind of weighing out their decisions, as they'll also both be eligible for next year's NFL draft. But yeah, this was a real disappointment of a season, just because you came in with pretty high expectations after the 9-4 campaign last year, where you beat Clemson, had a bunch of really good wins over Missouri, Texas A&M, and just you finished the regular season on a 6-game winning streak. And heading into this year, you start the season 2-0, and you're ranked as high as number 10 in the country, and you finish the season with only 2 more wins after that. I don't think sometimes it could be tough to throw around the word failure. I think you gotta be careful with how you kind of use that word when defining how a season went. But I think it's safe to say for the Gamecocks, I think this was a failure of a season, because you look at the expectations coming in. They were supposed to do a lot better than what they ended up doing. And yes, they lost some key pieces from last season. That was always going to be tough to replace, no doubt. And that definitely played a part into why things didn't go the way they were planned heading into 2025. But the fact of the matter is, South Carolina severely underperformed this season, and we'll now be looking into an offseason that's going to be a pivotal one, as it could be a make or break for the future of Shane Beamer's tenure at South Carolina and just what the future looks like beyond him and this program. So no more games for South Carolina this season, no bowl game to get prepared for over the next few weeks. The next thing on the docket, as I've said, with the few items coming up as far as early signing period, making an offensive coordinator hire, hiring an offensive line coach. We'll hear from Shane Beamer on Wednesday with the early signing period beginning to kind of recap who has signed and give thoughts on those guys, and a little bit more of the end of season wrap up as we really start to turn our attention now to the off season. So be sure to head on over to GamecockCentral.com for plenty of coverage as the off season now begins, from recruiting, position hires, all of that good stuff. So appreciate you guys following along with me all season long here on Gamecock Central. Definitely means a lot, as always. So signing off for the last time from Williams-Brice Stadium in 2025, for Gamecock Central, I'm Jack Veltri.